Message me once she leaves. My best friend sent my husband. My response shocked them all. She woke up each morning to the same soft light coming through the curtains. The room was quiet, clean, and familiar. The kind of quiet that feels safe because it has never been broken. The house smelled like yesterday's tea and fresh soap. Nothing felt rushed. Nothing felt wrong. This was her life, and for a long time, she believed it was a good one. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest uploads. Her marriage looked steady from the outside. No loud fights. No slammed doors. No public drama. Friends often said she was lucky. She believed that too. Her partner was calm, predictable, and polite. He worked regular hours, came home on time, and rarely raised his voice. He remembered birthdays and paid the bills. He listened, or at least appeared to. To her, this felt like love that had matured into something quiet and dependable. She had learned early on that love did not always look like movies. It was not always flowers and long talks at midnight. Sometimes love looked like shared routines and silent understanding. Or so she told herself. She believed peace was better than passion. Safety was better than excitement. And she built her expectations around that belief. There was one more person who mattered deeply to her. Her best friend. They had known each other for years. Long enough to see each other at their worst and still stay. Long enough to share secrets that were never spoken out loud to anyone else. The kind of friendship that feels more like family than friendship. Her best friend knew everything. The early struggles of marriage. The private worries she never said at home. The small disappointments she brushed aside. Every fear, every hope, every doubt had been shared during long calls and late-night messages. When something felt heavy, she reached for her phone and typed without thinking. The friend was always there. Always available. A message replied to within minutes. A call returned even late at night. Advice given gently, never pushing too hard. Comfort offered in soft words that felt understanding. She trusted this friend without question. There was no reason not to. The friend visited often. Dropped by without warning, but it never felt strange. Sometimes with snacks, sometimes with stories, sometimes just to sit quietly. The house had grown used to that presence. Even her partner welcomed it. He smiled, offered tea, joked lightly. It felt normal. Almost warm. They laughed together as a group. Shared meals. Talked about simple things like work, plans, and daily stress. There was no awkwardness. No visible tension. If anything, she felt proud that her two closest people got along so well. It made her feel secure, like her world was balanced and whole. Sometimes, when she was busy, the two of them talked without her. She never questioned it. Why would she? Trust does not look for proof. Trust assumes honesty. She believed she had built her life on trust. Her days followed a steady pattern. Wake up, prepare breakfast, exchange a few words, go through responsibilities. Evenings were quiet. Sometimes they watched something together. Sometimes they sat in the same room doing different things. It was not exciting, but it was calm. And calm felt safe. She often told herself that this was what adulthood looked like. That the fire fades, and comfort replaces it. That loyalty matters more than attention. She felt proud of herself for being mature enough to accept that. Her friend often reminded her how lucky she was. How many people wished for a peaceful life like hers. How many marriages fell apart because people wanted too much. Those words settled deep inside her. They made her silence her own doubts before they fully formed. There were small moments that she ignored. Tiny things that did not seem important at the time. A glance held a second longer than needed. A pause in conversation when she entered the room. A sudden change of topic. She noticed them, but her mind explained them away. Everyone has moments. Everyone has private jokes. Everyone needs space. That is what trust tells you. Her phone buzzed, often with messages from her friend. Sometimes early in the morning. Sometimes late at night. She smiled when she saw the name light up the screen. It felt comforting to be thought of. To be checked on. To be remembered. Her partner never questioned those messages. Never asked what they talked about. That made her trust him even more. She believed that jealousy was a sign of insecurity, and he had none. Or so it seemed. The house itself felt like a quiet witness to their life. Every corner held routine. Every object had a place. Nothing felt out of control. Nothing felt threatening. It was a life carefully built to avoid pain. Sometimes, she wondered if something was missing. A feeling she could not name. A slight emptiness during long silences. But she pushed that thought away. Wanting more felt selfish. Being content felt responsible. Her friend was the one she turned to when those thoughts appeared. And the friend always knew what to say. Words that made her feel understood, not judged. Words that made her feel grateful for what she had instead of curious about what she lacked. Looking back, it was easy to see how safe everything appeared. How perfectly normal it all seemed. There were no warning signs that screamed danger. Only whispers that were too quiet to hear when life feels comfortable. One ordinary day began like any other. No arguments. No bad news. No heavy feelings. The morning passed smoothly. Messages were exchanged. Smiles were shared. Nothing hinted that anything was about to change. She had no idea that this day would quietly mark the end of her innocence. That the safety she trusted was already cracked beneath the surface. That the people she trusted the most were about to become the center of a truth she was not ready to face. At that moment, she believed her life was protected by love, friendship, and routine. She believed she was safe. And sometimes, the most dangerous lies are the ones that feel the most comfortable. The day moved slowly, like many others before it. Nothing about it felt unusual. The air inside the house was still, and the quiet felt familiar. She was cleaning up after lunch, wiping the counter she had already wiped twice, lost in her thoughts. Her partner had left his phone on the table, face down, something he often did. She wasn't curious. Not really. She had never felt the need to check his phone. Trust had made that habit unnecessary. But the phone vibrated softly, just once. Not loud. Not urgent. Just enough to catch her attention. She glanced at it without thinking. A small habit. The screen lit up for a moment before going dark again. She didn't see the full message, just the notification preview. A single line of text. Let me know when she leaves. Her body froze before her mind understood what she had read. Her hand stopped mid-motion. The cloth slipped from her fingers and fell onto the floor, but she didn't notice. Her eyes stayed on the phone, even though the screen was already black. At first, her brain tried to protect her. It searched for explanations. Maybe it was about someone else. Maybe it was taken out of context. Maybe she had read it wrong. She waited for her breathing to return to normal before she picked up the phone. Her hands felt strange, like they didn't belong to her. Light. Unsteady. She told herself she was only going to check who sent it. Nothing more. Just enough to calm the sudden fear growing inside her. When the screen unlocked, the name stared back at her. Her best friend. For a moment, the world felt far away. Sounds faded. The room felt smaller. Her heart started beating so loudly that she was sure it could be heard from the next room. She read the message again, slower this time. Let me know when she leaves. There was no smile. No joke. No extra words to soften it. It was short. Direct. Careful. The kind of message that assumes understanding without explanation. Her stomach tightened. A cold feeling spread through her chest. This was not a misunderstanding. Not anymore. She scrolled slightly, just enough to see the messages before it. They weren't many. Short exchanges. Casual words. Nothing openly wrong. But now every line felt heavy. Every word carried a meaning she had never noticed before. She locked the phone and placed it back exactly where it had been. Slowly. Carefully. As if moving too fast would make the truth louder. Her thoughts raced, but her face stayed still. Years of shared memories began replaying in her mind, now painted in a different color. Late-night calls. Long conversations. The comfort her friend always offered. The ease between her friend and her partner. Small moments returned with sharp clarity. The pauses. The glances. The way conversations changed when she entered the room. Things she had once brushed aside now felt impossible to ignore. She felt foolish. Not because she had trusted them, but because she had trusted so deeply without ever questioning. Trust, she realized, can sometimes make you blind. Her first instinct was to confront them. To ask, to demand answers, to break the silence with anger or tears. Her chest burned with the urge to speak. But something inside her stopped her. She knew that if she spoke now, she would only hear lies. Calm voices. Soft excuses. Words designed to protect themselves. She needed truth, not comfort. So she chose silence. That decision did not come easily. Silence felt heavy. It pressed against her chest and made it hard to breathe. But it also gave her control. For the first time since reading the message, she felt grounded. She decided to watch. From that moment on, everything changed, even though nothing appeared different on the surface. She smiled when spoken to. She answered questions. She moved through the house as she always had. But inside, she was alert. Awake in a way she had never been before. She noticed how her partner checked his phone more often. How his mood shifted slightly when a message arrived. How he carried the phone with him more than usual. She noticed how her friends' messages became more careful. How the tone shifted. How visits were timed more precisely. How the warmth now carried an edge. No one knew she knew. At night, she lay awake listening to the quiet. The same quiet she once found comforting now felt loud with unspoken truths. She replayed the message again and again, as if repeating it might change its meaning. Let me know when she leaves. Leaves where? The house. The room. The relationship. Every possible answer hurt. She questioned herself. Had she missed something? Had she pushed them together without realizing it? Had her silence created space for betrayal? These thoughts came uninvited, heavy with guilt. But deep down, she knew the truth. Betrayal is a choice, not an accident. Her friend called later that evening. The familiar tone was there, but she heard it differently now. Every word felt measured. Every laugh felt practiced. She responded normally. Asked about the day. Listened. Agreed. Her voice did not shake, even though her hands did. After the call ended, she sat alone for a long time, staring at nothing. She felt like a stranger in her own life, watching it from a distance. Trust had once made her feel safe. Now, knowledge made her powerful. She knew this was only the beginning. That one message was not the full story. It was a door left slightly open, and she intended to see what was behind it. She made a quiet promise to herself. She would not rush. She would not react without understanding. She would protect herself first. Outside, the world continued as usual. Cars passed. Neighbors laughed. Life moved on without noticing her internal collapse. Inside, something had shifted forever. She went to bed that night beside someone she now saw clearly for the first time. She closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to prepare. Because silence, she realized, was not weakness. It was strategy. After that day, she changed without anyone noticing. On the outside, she was the same. She woke up on time. She cooked. She smiled when spoken to. She listened when someone talked to her. Nothing in her behavior warned them. That was intentional. Inside, she was watching everything. She learned to keep her face calm even when her heart felt heavy. She learned to breathe slowly when her chest felt tight. She reminded herself again and again that reacting too soon would only hurt her more. Silence, she discovered, gave her space to think. Her partner became careful in small ways. He started stepping into another room to answer calls. When she entered suddenly, he would lock his phone without realizing how obvious the movement looked. He said he was tired more often. He claimed work stress, deadlines, extra responsibility. She nodded and accepted those words without question. Or at least, she pretended to. The routines they once shared began to shift. He left earlier in the mornings and came back a little later than usual. The changes were small enough to seem harmless, but together they formed a pattern she could no longer ignore. Her friend changed too. The messages became fewer but more careful. Where there had once been warmth and openness, there was now hesitation. The tone was different. Still friendly, but distant. As if every word was being checked before it was sent. She noticed how visits were planned more precisely. No more random drop-ins. No casual surprises. Everything happened with reason now. She didn't ask questions. Questions bring answers, and answers can be controlled. Observation could not be. One evening, she noticed her partner smiling at his phone. It was not a big smile. Just a small one. Soft. Private. The kind she used to think belonged to her alone. That smile hurt more than any argument ever could. She turned away quietly, pretending to focus on something else. Her reflection in the window looked unfamiliar. Older. Sharper. More awake. Late at night, when the house was silent, she allowed herself to feel. She cried without sound. She pressed her hand against her mouth so no one would hear. Her tears soaked into the pillow, carrying years of trust with them. The pain was deep, but it was controlled. She refused to let anger decide her actions. Anger makes mistakes. She needed clarity. Over time, the clues added up. She saw a message arrive when she stepped out of the room, only to disappear when she returned. She noticed how her friend mentioned details she should not have known. Small things. Like his schedule. His moods. His thoughts. Once, her friend spoke about him in a way that felt too personal. Too knowing. The sentence ended quickly, like a mistake that had slipped out. She smiled and said nothing. Another time, her partner mentioned something her friend had said, even though she knew they had not spoken in her presence. The room went quiet for a moment too long. Then conversation resumed, pretending nothing had happened. She began to understand how long this had been going on. Not in exact days or weeks, but in depth. This was not sudden. This was not accidental. This was built slowly, quietly, behind her back. That realization broke something inside her. She questioned every memory now. Every shared laugh. Every comforting word. Were they real, or were they borrowed from something else? She wondered how long she had been the last person to know the truth about her own life. At times, the urge to confront them returned strongly. She imagined asking one simple question and watching their faces change. She imagined the silence that would follow. The excuses. The apologies. But she pushed those thoughts away. If she spoke now, she would give them control of the story. They would decide how much truth to share and how much to hide. She refused to allow that. Instead, she collected facts. Quietly. Carefully. She paid attention to dates. Times. Patterns. She remembered every small detail that once felt meaningless. Knowledge became her strength. Her heartbreak deepened, but so did her resolve. She realized that betrayal does not always come with cruelty. Sometimes it arrives wrapped in politeness and calm voices. Sometimes it hides behind familiarity and routine. Her friend still spoke to her with concern. Asked how she was feeling. Offered advice. The irony of it all felt almost unbearable. She responded kindly. Thanked her. listened. Every conversation felt like acting in a play where she now knew the ending. There were moments when she felt completely alone. Even in a room full of people, she felt invisible. The two people she trusted most had created a world that did not include her. At night, she lay awake thinking about the future. Not the one she had planned, but the one she now needed to build. The idea frightened her, but it also brought a strange sense of calm. She reminded herself that reacting with rage would only make her look unstable. That tears would not make them honest. That silence, when used wisely, can speak louder than words. Slowly, her pain turned into clarity. She accepted the truth fully. Not with peace, but with understanding. Acceptance did not mean forgiveness. It meant seeing things as they were, not as she wished them to be. She stopped blaming herself. She stopped asking what she could have done differently. Some choices are made by others, and no amount of kindness can stop them. One evening, as she watched the two of them laugh at something simple, she felt a shift inside. The pain was still there, but it no longer controlled her. She knew then that when she finally spoke, it would not be emotional. It would not be desperate. It would be deliberate. If she responded, it would be on her terms, not theirs. And that decision gave her a strength she did not know she had. From the outside, nothing changed. She remained kind. She spoke gently. She smiled at the right moments and stayed quiet when silence felt expected. She continued her routines with care, as if her life was still balanced and untouched. Anyone watching would see a woman at peace. Inside, she was building something carefully. She understood now that rushing would only cost her. Emotional reactions feel powerful in the moment, but they fade quickly and leave damage behind. She did not want damage. She wanted direction. Each morning, she reminded herself of that goal. She treated her partner with the same calm respect as before. She asked about his day. She listened without interruption. She offered support when he complained about work. He relaxed around her, convinced that everything was normal. That false sense of safety worked in her favor. Her friend remained close, though more careful than before. Still, neither of them suspected that the balance had shifted. They believed silence meant ignorance. They believed kindness meant weakness. She let them believe it. Quietly, she began to prepare. She started by grounding herself emotionally. Each night, she wrote her thoughts down, not to release anger, but to organize it. She learned the difference between pain and impulse. Pain needed time. Impulse needed control. She stopped crying in front of mirrors and started asking herself practical questions instead. What did she want her future to look like? What did dignity mean to her? What would make her feel whole again, even after everything? The answers did not involve shouting or public scenes. They involved stability. She began to pay closer attention to her finances. Not obsessively, just carefully. She reviewed accounts she had once trusted blindly. She noted patterns, balances, shared responsibilities. Knowledge replaced assumption. She opened a separate space for herself, quietly and legally. Nothing dramatic. Just a safety net. A reminder that independence was not betrayal, it was protection. She started saving small amounts. Planning quietly. Thinking ahead. She gathered proof without invading or crossing lines. Messages left unlocked. Conversations overheard. Details that repeated themselves too often to be coincidence. She trusted facts more than feelings now. Every piece of information went into its own place in her mind. Organized. Clear. Useful. She never searched in panic. She never demanded answers. She waited. Her calm unsettled her own heart at times. There were moments when she wondered if she was becoming cold. But she realized this was not coldness. It was focus. Her friend still spoke to her with gentle concern. Asked about her mood. Complimented her strength. The irony no longer made her angry. It made her observant. She noticed how her friend avoided certain topics now. How some words were chosen too carefully. How laughter came a second too late. She noticed how her partner relaxed more each day, convinced that whatever tension once existed had passed. He spoke freely, unaware that she was listening differently now. She listened not for emotion, but for truth. She learned that people reveal themselves most when they believe they are safe. She took care of herself in small ways. Walks alone. Quiet moments with tea. Time spent breathing deeply and reminding herself that she was still in control of her choices. She did not rush to forgive, but she also did not poison herself with hate. Revenge fueled by anger burns quickly and leaves ash behind. She wanted something cleaner. Clarity. Dignity. Control. These became her private anchors. At times, her heart still ached. Certain memories would surface unexpectedly. A shared laugh from years ago. A moment she once believed was real. Those memories hurt, but they no longer distracted her. She allowed herself to grieve the version of her life she had lost. Grief is not weakness. It is recognition. But she did not grieve publicly. Outwardly, she remained unbothered. She attended gatherings, spoke politely, played her role with ease. No raised voices, no accusations, no emotional displays. The absence of drama made her invisible, and invisibility gave her power. She made sure she understood her options, not emotionally, but practically. She read, she learned, she asked questions quietly where needed, never revealing more than necessary. Every step was taken with care. She did not imagine punishment. She imagined resolution. She did not dream of humiliating them. She dreamed of walking away with her head high, knowing she had protected herself. Her silence continued to mislead them. Her partner grew comfortable again. His guard lowered. His routines became careless. He spoke as if nothing could ever change. Her friend smiled more openly, convinced that time had erased suspicion. They were wrong. She was not waiting for the perfect moment out of fear. She was waiting because preparation takes time. One night, as she lay awake beside him, she felt no anger, only certainty. That feeling surprised her. Certainty is quiet. It does not demand attention. She knew she would speak one day, but not yet. When she did, it would not be from a place of hurt. It would be from a place of strength. And until that day arrived, she would remain exactly as they expected. Calm, kind, unaware. That calm was not peace. It was strategy. The moment did not arrive with noise or warning. It came quietly, like everything else she had planned. The day looked ordinary on the surface. The kind of day that slips past without being remembered. She woke up early, dressed with care, and moved through the house with the same calm she had practiced for weeks. Her heart was steady. Her mind was clear. This was not impulse. This was timing. She had chosen the moment carefully, not for drama, but for truth. A setting where lies could not hide behind private rooms or whispered explanations. A place where words would matter and silence would speak louder than excuses. They gathered together like they often did. Familiar faces. Easy laughter. A space where everyone felt comfortable, safe, confident. Her partner looked relaxed, unaware. He spoke easily, joked lightly, certain that his life was still under control. Her friend stood nearby, calm and confident, wearing the same expression of loyalty that had fooled her for so long. She watched them quietly, not with anger, but with final clarity. When the moment came, she did not raise her voice. She simply spoke. At first, it sounded like a normal sentence. Calm. Even gentle. Enough to draw attention without alarm. Conversations slowed. Faces turned toward her. She looked at her partner first. Not with accusation. Not with tears. Just with steady eye contact. She said one thing. A single sentence. The kind that cannot be misunderstood. The room shifted. He laughed at first, softly, as if waiting for a joke to follow. But no joke came. Her expression did not change. Then she looked at her friend. The color drained slowly from her friend's face, not all at once, but enough to be noticed. The confidence faltered. Just slightly. That was when she revealed the proof. Not emotionally. Not dramatically. Fact by fact. Messages that matched dates. Words that matched moments. Details that could not exist unless something real had been happening. She did not exaggerate. She did not insult. She did not attack. She let truth do the work. The room went quiet in a way that felt heavy and final. No one interrupted. No one defended. Because there was nothing left to defend. Her partner's face changed as understanding settled in. Not anger. Not denial. Shock. The kind that arrives when consequences appear without warning. He looked at her as if seeing her for the first time, realizing too late that her calm had never meant ignorance. That her silence had never meant acceptance. Words failed him. He tried to speak, but the explanations came out tangled and weak. Half-finished sentences. Familiar excuses that no longer fit the facts. She did not respond. There was nothing left to say. Her friend tried next. Soft voice. Careful tone. A familiar attempt at understanding and comfort. But the room had changed. The people listening were no longer hearing a trusted voice. They were hearing betrayal. Trust, once broken in public, does not ask questions. It disappears. The shift was immediate. The looks exchanged. The silence that followed her friend's words. The way distance appeared in seconds. The image she had built over years collapsed in one moment. She stood there calmly, allowing the truth to settle where it belonged. She did not smile. She did not cry. She simply held her ground. Her partner finally understood what he had lost. Not just a relationship, but respect. Safety. The version of life where consequences felt far away. Regret showed on his face, not because he suddenly understood her pain, but because his comfort was gone. Too late. Her friend's eyes searched the room, looking for support that no longer existed. The role she had played so well no longer worked. There was nothing left to hide behind. The people who once felt powerful now felt exposed. The people who believed they were winning had nothing left to hold. She did not stay long after that. She did not wait for arguments or apologies. She gathered herself with dignity and left the space exactly as she had entered it. Calm. Whole. In control. Behind her, the damage settled in slowly. Conversations broke into whispers. Trust fractured. Reputations cracked. She walked away knowing she had not raised her voice or lowered her standards. She had not begged for honesty. She had demanded truth by presenting it. That night, for the first time in a long while, she slept without tension in her chest. The betrayal had been exposed, but she had not been reduced by it. The people who once controlled the narrative were now silent. And she finally understood something clearly. Power does not come from revenge fueled by anger. It comes from choosing yourself at the right moment. That moment had arrived. And everything had turned. The days after everything came out felt slow and heavy, like time itself had changed its pace. She did not disappear. She did not hide. She moved forward with the same quiet control she had practiced for so long. People noticed that first. They expected tears, anger, or collapse. Instead, they saw steadiness. The fallout began immediately. Messages came in from different directions. Some were careful. Some were awkward. Some were full of regret that arrived too late to matter. She read them without rushing and answered only when she felt it was necessary. Her partner tried first. He reached out with long explanations that circled around responsibility without ever fully holding it. He spoke of confusion, of mistakes, of pressure. of fear. He said words meant to soften consequences. She listened once, calmly, without interruption. When he finished, she did not argue. She did not remind him of dates or proof. She did not raise her voice. She simply said that explanations did not change choices. That silence hit harder than anger ever could. He realized then that he could no longer negotiate his way out. The comfort of familiar routines was gone. The power dynamic he had relied on no longer existed. Regret settled in, but regret does not rebuild what respect destroys. Her friend tried next. The approach was different. Softer. Emotional. Tears appeared quickly. Words like misunderstanding and loneliness were used carefully. She spoke of fear, of feeling lost, of never meaning to hurt anyone. The room stayed quiet while she spoke. When it was her turn, the woman did not attack. She said something simple. That betrayal does not begin with feelings. It begins with decisions. There was nothing more to explain. Her friend left without closure, realizing that sympathy was no longer available. Around them, the truth spread quietly. Not as gossip, but as understanding. People began to connect moments they had once ignored. The strange pauses. The careful behavior. The discomfort they had felt but never named. They saw now what the woman had lived with silently for so long. And they saw how she had handled it. Not with chaos, but with restraint. That changed how they looked at her. She was not treated like someone who had been fooled. She was treated like someone who had endured. There were conversations she did not start, but that found her anyway. Quiet acknowledgements. Simple apologies for not noticing sooner. She accepted them without bitterness. She did not need validation, but she recognized it when it came. The shame moved away from her and settled where it belonged. Her partner faced consequences he had never considered. Trust at work weakened. Friendships grew distant. The version of himself he had presented no longer matched reality. Her friend lost something more permanent. People no longer listened the same way. No longer trusted words without question. No longer opened themselves so easily. Reputation, once cracked, does not repair quickly. And she watched all of this from a distance. Not with satisfaction, but with certainty. She refused to be pulled back into emotional conversations designed to confuse or soften reality. Any attempt to reopen wounds was met with calm boundaries. She did not explain herself repeatedly. She did not defend her decision. She stood firm. That firmness surprised people. They expected bitterness. They found clarity. They expected weakness. They saw resolve. Slowly, admiration replaced pity. People spoke of her patience, of her self-control, of the way she had protected her dignity without destroying herself. She did not correct them. She knew what it had cost her. Late at night, when she was alone, the weight still appeared sometimes. Healing is not instant. Some memories still hurt. Some trust still felt fragile. But the pain no longer owned her. She had chosen herself when it mattered. The guilty ones, however, could not escape their choices so easily. They had believed secrecy protected them. They learned too late that silence, when used wisely, protects the one who waits. What they lost was not just a relationship or reputation. They lost credibility. They lost certainty. They lost the version of the future they had assumed would continue without consequences. She gained something different. Clarity, strength, and peace that came not from forgiveness, but from truth. The consequences they faced were not loud or dramatic. They were lasting. And as she moved forward, steady and unshaken, one thing became clear to everyone watching. The betrayal had not broken her. It had revealed her. The end did not feel like an ending. It felt like space. For the first time in a long while, she woke up without tension in her chest. No plans to monitor. No need to stay alert. No fear of what she might discover next. The quiet in her home felt different now. Not empty. Open. She chose herself without guilt. That choice was not loud. It did not arrive with celebration or speeches. It showed up in small, steady decisions. In the way she said no without explaining. In the way she said yes only when it felt right. She rebuilt her days carefully. Mornings became hers again. She moved at her own pace, drank her tea slowly, and allowed her thoughts to settle without interruption. She learned to enjoy the stillness instead of filling it with noise. She set boundaries without apology. Some people did not understand them. Some questioned her calm distance. She did not argue. Boundaries do not need permission to exist. She focused on what made her feel grounded. Work that gave her purpose. Conversations that felt honest. Moments that did not require performance. Her confidence returned quietly. Not the kind that demands attention, but the kind that stays steady even when no one is watching. She trusted her instincts again. She trusted her ability to walk away from what no longer served her. The betrayal no longer defined her days. It became something she remembered without pain. A chapter that taught her clarity, patience, and strength. A lesson, not a label. People noticed the change. They spoke of how light she seemed. How focused. How sure of herself. She accepted the compliments with grace, but she did not depend on them. She knew where her strength came from. It came from restraint. From silence used wisely. From choosing dignity over reaction. Her revenge had never been about cruelty. It had been about control. She did not destroy lives. She revealed truth. And truth had done the rest. She no longer followed the outcomes of those who betrayed her. Their paths were no longer hers to watch. Whatever lessons they learned without her involvement. That freedom mattered. She invested in herself fully now. Financially. Emotionally. Mentally. She made plans that belonged only to her. Dreams that did not require compromise or explanation. She allowed joy back in, carefully at first, then fully. Laughter felt different when it was not weighed down by suspicion. Trust felt safer when it was built slowly and honestly. She did not rush into anything new. She did not need to prove that she had moved on. Peace is not something you show. It is something you live. There were moments when memories surfaced unexpectedly. A familiar place. A shared habit. A reminder of what once was. She acknowledged those moments and let them pass. Healing, she learned, does not erase the past. It places it where it belongs. Behind you. She stood taller now. Not because she felt superior, but because she no longer felt small. She had reclaimed her voice without raising it. She had reclaimed her life without fighting for it. Her story did not end with loss. It ended with return. Return to self-respect. Return to clarity. Return to peace. One evening, as she watched the light fade from the sky, she felt a quiet sense of completion. Not closure given by others, but closure she gave herself. She had not lost anything worth keeping. She had let go of what was never truly hers. And in doing so, she reclaimed everything that mattered. Herself.